Good afternoon, all of you. Today we are about to start Robert Browning's Meeting at Night. So, as you know, in the last Google Meet class, I talk a lot about Victorian age, Victorian era, where Robert Browning belonged to, and I mentioned about his areas of interest and his style of writing and his major works. And if you remember in the last class, I talk about that he was one of the most important figures of the Victorian era along with Lord Alfred Tennyson. Like the Victorian, he was fascinated by the human nature of beings. Now, coming to this poem, Meeting at Night, as I already mentioned, it has a companion poem, Parting in the Morning, is an excellent dramatic lyric. Now, the poem is divided into two stanzas. The first stanza talks about the journey of the lover by boat through the sea, and the second stanza talks about the ultimate meeting of the lovers. So you can understand, if you look at the text or along with the companion poem, two words are very important: parting and meeting. One is separation, another is reconciliation or reunion. So if you look at that, it is very important to understand that both these are part of our life. So unless there is black, there is no value of white. Unless there is darkness, there is no value of light. So parting and meeting both constitute our life. That's why, as I already told you in the beginning of the class, that this text is a perfect example of human psychology, which talk about the total cycle of our life, which consists both separation and reunion. If you read the poem from the first, you see the poem starts with a beautiful description of a moonlit night. And if you look at the title, Meeting at Night, you see there is an element of secrecy, a kind of an suspicion and anxiety. Those are very important concepts in the poet. And you know, these concepts are manifested through the urgency and eagerness of the narrator. And when we talk about the poem, the natural background of it, that adds further charm to the poem. If I read the first line of the poem, the grey sea and the long black land, and the yellow half moon large and low, and the startled little waves that leap, you can understand, as I already mentioned in the last class, that the journey of the lover is a symbol of the journey of life. And the waves are the obstacles or the problems or the troubles that we have to overcome. So if you look at the poem is in first person narration, and the poem is about a tensed, anxious atmosphere which reflects the narrator's urgency of the journey. And the tone of the poem continuously shifts from a very anxious to the second half of the poem, where it's absolute joy, the ultimate meeting between these two lovers. That is why the poem, if you look at the poem, just like the sea and the land, the poem also has a continuous shift, or this is called shifting of moods, shifting of tones, which are important, or which are very significant for the tension and the urgency in the narrator's journey. So it can never be a smooth journey without anything. You know, we often say English proverb that a smooth sea can never make a skillful mariner. So unless there is waves, it's very difficult for that mariner to become efficient. So you need obstacles, you need problems to make your life stronger, to make you experienced, and that is what the lover's journey is all about. And this poem is absolutely marked by the Browning's use of imagery. Images are very, very important. Images makes writing much more thought-provoking, much more intensified writings. So if you look at the text, the images like the yellow half moon, the grey sea, the black land, these all invokes the reader to internalize the situation. This talked about the tension. This talked about the urgency. This talked about the anxiety of the poem. And another very, very important, if you look at the next stanza of it, that a tap on the window pane, sharp scratch, blue spurt, lighted match, these are all reference to the light is a symbol of hope. So these are all symbols which are used in the poem to explain or to express the poet's thought, or in a better way we can say that this talked about the psychological state of the lover in which he was going through with this continuous shifting of tones, and which helps the poem to progress to its ultimate aim. And not only that, the poem is also a very, very striking example of use of colors. The details of the colors, the grey, black, yellow, these are the colors which are symbolic to different states of human life, and that makes the poem sensuous. Sensuous means which you can feel. If you read the poem as if along with the lover you are traveling through that journey, you are a companion of him in his journey through the sea. And that is why this poem becomes a very, very significant poem of Browning, which talked about the psychological, as I already told you, that Browning, like the Victorians, was interested in the natural beauty, but was much more fascinated by the human nature. And you can see the perfect example of this poem which talked about, because he has another poem I can name, The Last Ride Together, which is another beautiful poem which again talked about the innermost depth of human psychology. And the poem is very, very short and very, very precise. There is no excessive use of anything. It's very, very precise and very, very compact poem. So that's why it is a brilliant poem which marks the technique of Robert Browning, the use of dramatic monologue. And if you look at the end of the poem, the poem ends in an abrupt manner. That the last two lines, and a voice less loud through its joys and fears than the two hearts beating each to each. That means you can understand the poem ends up with a perfect union between two lovers, and that is why it is a significant poem in the world of Victorian poetry, where Browning marks this area of human psychology, where he goes into the depth of human psychology to bring out different areas of human psychology. All right, so just go through the poem in that manner. I have given you the details of it from different perspectives, along with go through the presentation of it, and along with that I'm going to post you something today. See, this is not an answer. This is just like the other text. This is a question, or better to say a critical analysis of Browning's poetry with special reference to Meeting at Night, which will help you to understand different areas of the poem. All right, so just go through it, and if you have any queries you can contact me. All right, thank you everyone. Thank you.